Today we are going to continue with chapter 11, public goods and common resources. This chapter is about, we are going to look for the answers to these questions. What are public goods? What are common resources? Give examples of each. We have, why do markets generally fail to provide the efficient amounts of these goods? How might the government improve market outcomes in the case of public goods or common resources? Let's make an introduction first. We consume many goods without paying, for example, parks, national defense, clean air and water. And when goods have no prices, the market forces that normally allocate resources are absent. So governments can sometimes improve market outcomes, which we make revision from chapter 1. We have important characteristics of goods. We have two important characteristics of goods. A good is excludable if a person can be prevented from using it. And we can give examples of excludable goods: fish tacos, wireless internet access. And we have not excludable goods like AM, FM radio signals and national defense. And the other characteristics is a good is rival in consumption. If one person's use of it diminishes others' use, we call this one a good is rival in consumption. We have examples for this one also. For example, rival in consumption, we can give fish tacos, and not rival, we can give an MP3 file of Lady Gaga's latest single. And we have different kinds of goods. We have 4 different kinds of goods. The first one is private goods. They are excludable and rival in consumption. Example, food. We have public goods. They are not excludable, they are not rival in consumption. Example, national defense. And we have common resources. The characteristics of common resources are rival but not excludable. Example, fish in the ocean. And we have club goods. They are excludable but not rival. Example, cable TV. So categorizing roads, this is active learning 1. We are going to categorize roads as congested and as a toll road. So if it is congested, we call this one rival in consumption. And if it is excludable, we call this one only if a toll road. So we have 4 possibilities. If this road is uncongested non-toll road, we call this one public good. If this road is uncongested toll road, this is a club good. And we have congested non-toll road, this is a common resource. And we have congested toll road, this is a private good. So this chapter mainly focused on public goods and common resources. And for both, we have externalities problem arise because something of value has no price attached to it. And so private decisions about consumption and production can lead to an inefficient outcome. So public policy can potentially raise economic well-being. So we have public goods, as we said, and there's one problem for a public good. We call this one free rider problem. And what's a free rider? It's a person who receives the benefit of a good but avoids paying for it. So if good is not excludable, if you are not paying for a good, people have incentive to be free riders because firms cannot prevent non-payers from consuming the good. And result, the good is not produced even if buyers collectively value the good higher than the cost of providing it. This is the problem for public goods. And if the benefit of a public good exceeds the cost of providing it, government should provide the good and pay for it with a tax on people who benefit. And the problem here is how to measure the benefit. It's difficult because you are not paying. You cannot measure the benefit. So we have cost-benefit analysis to measure the benefit of a public good. And this is a study that compares the cost and benefits of providing a public good. So cost-benefit analysis are imprecise, so the efficient provision of public goods is more difficult than that of private goods. So we have some important public goods like national defense, knowledge, and fighting poverty. Let's look at common resources. We have important common resources like public goods. Common resources are not excludable. cannot prevent free riders from using, little incentive for firms to provide, and role for government is seeing that they are provided. And we have the tragedy of the commons. It's a parable that illustrates why common resources get used more than is socially desirable. So let's skip this one. And we have, you are not responsible from active learning too, and the policy options to prevent overconsumption of common resources. Just read, please. So we have some important common resources like clean air and water, congested roads, fish, whales, and other wildlife. So we finished this chapter, and we are going to look at chapter 12. Chapter 12 is the most important chapter for the final exam. It's about the cost of production. We are going to calculate cost of production. There is active learning 1, brainstorming. In this chapter, what we are going to learn, we are going to look at what is production function, what is marginal product, how is it related, how are they related, what are the various costs, how are they related to each other and to output, how are costs different in short run versus in the long run, and we are going to look at what are economies of scale. So first, let's start with total revenue, total cost, and profit. So we assume that each firm goal is to maximize profit, and profit equal to total revenue minus total cost. So what is a total revenue? It's the amount a firm receives from the sale of its output, which we can find total revenue by multiplying price with quantity. And what is a total cost? It is the market value of the inputs a firm uses in production. So profit equal to total revenue minus total cost. We have two kinds of cost. We have explicit cost, which require an outlay of money, example, paying wages to workers. And we have implicit cost, which do not require a cash outlay, example, the opportunity cost of the owner's time. And let's remember from the chapter 1, the 10 principles of economics, what is an opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is the cost of something is what you give up to get it. We call this one opportunity cost. So total cost equal to explicit plus implicit cost. There's an example for explicit and implicit cost. Here says you need 100,000 to start your business. The interest rate is 5%. Case 1 says if you borrow $100,000 from a bank, let's calculate the cost from borrowing this amount from a bank. Just we have explicit cost there because you are going to pay with a cash outlay this amount. So your explicit cost equal to $100,000 multiplied by 5% interest rate gives us this one, explicit cost equal to $5,000 interest on loan. Case 2 says use 40,000 of your savings, borrow the other 60,000 from a bank. So here we have, when you use your savings, this is like an opportunity cost because instead of earning interest, you are using this to start your business. So we call this one implicit cost. And implicit cost here equal to 40,000 multiplied by interest rate, which is 5%. So this is implicit cost equal to $2,000 foregone interest you could have earned on your $40,000. And we have explicit cost, this is the amount that you borrow from a bank, which is 60,000 multiplied by 5% equal to $3,000. This is the interest on the loan. And total cost here equal to explicit plus implicit cost, which is $3,000 plus $2,000 equal to $5,000. And we have two kinds of profit. We have accounting profit and economic profit. Accounting profit equal to total revenue minus total explicit cost. So accountants do not keep the track of implicit cost, do not keep the track of opportunity cost. But for an economic profit, for the economist, economic profit equal to total revenue minus total cost. And this total cost includes explicit cost plus implicit cost. So the difference between economic profit and accounting profit is accountants do not keep the track of implicit cost, but economics does. So this is another example, active learning 2. And we have an production function. What is a production function? It shows the relationship between the quantity of input used to produce a good and the quantity of output of that good. It can be represented by a table, equation, or graph. So we have an example there. Farmer Jack grows wheat. He has 5 acres of land. He can hire as many workers as he wants. So this is Farmer Jack production function. We are going to use quantity of output and number of workers. And we are going to calculate marginal product of labor. What is the marginal product of labor? The marginal product of any input is the increase in output arising from an additional unit of that input, holding all other inputs constant. So how we calculate marginal product of labor? It is change in quantity divided by change in labor. So here, as you see, this is how we calculate marginal product of labor. Also, we can calculate the marginal product of labor by using slope of production function, which is, it is change in y divided by change in x, as you see. Why marginal product of labor is important? So by calculating marginal product of labor, we are going to decide if we need extra worker or not. So when Farmer Jack, according to our example, when Farmer Jack hires an extra worker, his cost rises by the wage he pays the worker, and his output rises by marginal product of labor. So if marginal product of labor decreases, this means we are not going to hire any more worker. So we are going to compare. When we compare them, this helps Jack decide whether he should hire the worker. And why marginal product of labor diminish? And so as Jack adds workers, the average worker has less land to work with and will be less productive. So because of this, marginal product of labor diminishes as labor, as L, rises, whether the fixed input is land or capital. So diminishing marginal product is the marginal product of an input declines as the quantity of the input increases, other things equal. Example 1. This is Farmer Jack cost. He pays $1,000 per month for the land, regardless of how much wheat he grows. And the market wage for a farm worker is $2,000 per month. So Farmer Jack costs are related to how much wheat he produces. Here, labor, quantity produced. So we have labor is input and quantity produced is output. So the cost of land is $1,000. Cost of labor, 1 worker $2,000, 2 worker $4,000. So when we add cost of land and cost of labor, we are going to find total cost, like here. So we can draw Farmer Jack's total cost curve by using total cost and quantity of wheat, as you see. So what is marginal cost? It is the increase in total cost from producing 1 more unit. So it is change in total cost divided by change in quantity. Like here, when we calculate change in total cost and change in quantity, you can divide change in total cost by change in quantity to find marginal cost. So you can draw a marginal cost curve by using marginal cost on y and quantity on x. So why marginal cost is important? To find the answer, Farmer Jack needs to think at the margin. If the cost of additional wheat, marginal cost, is less than the revenue he would get from selling it, then Jack's profits rise if he produces more. We have fixed and variable cost. Fixed costs do not vary with the quantity of output produced. Like for Farmer Jack, it is the cost of land. We can give other examples. It is cost of equipment, loan payments, rent, and we have variable costs which vary with the quantity produced. For Farmer Jack, variable cost equal to wages he pays workers. Other example, we have cost of materials. So total cost equal to fixed cost plus variable cost. This is our second example. So total cost equal to fixed cost plus variable cost. As you see, the blue is a fixed cost, the red is a variable cost, and the green line is a total cost. Always variable cost is between the fixed cost and total cost. Always total cost is curve is at the top, because you add fixed cost and variable cost to find total cost. How we calculate marginal cost? It is change in total cost divided by change in quantity. So usually marginal cost rises as quantity rises, and here this is the marginal cost curve. We have average fixed cost, it is fixed cost divided by quantity, and we have average variable cost, it is variable cost divided by quantity. We have average total cost, it is total cost divided by quantity, or it is average fixed cost plus average variable cost. And the various cost curves together, as you see, the dark blue is average fixed cost, the light blue is average variable cost, the green, which is at the top, it is average total cost curve, and the red line, which crosses the average total cost at the minimum point, we call this one marginal cost. So here, active learning 3, you are going to use the cost formulas to calculate. Why average total cost usually U-shaped? Because falling average fixed cost pulls average total cost down, and then eventually rising average variable cost pulls average total cost up. We have an efficient scale, the quantity that minimizes average total cost. As you see here, we have cost in the short run and in the long run. In the short run, we have fixed cost and variable cost, but in the long run, all inputs are variable, so just we have variable cost. We don't have fixed cost in the long run. And then the last important part of cost chapter, cost of production, is how average total cost changes as the scale of production changes. We have economies of scale. The first one, which is here. As quantity rises, average total cost falls. And then we have constant returns to scale, which is average total cost stays the same as quantity increases. And then the last one, we have diseconomies of scale, which is average total cost rises as quantity increases. So economies of scale occur when increasing production allows greater specialization. Workers are more efficient when focusing on a narrow task, so more common when quantity is low. And diseconomies of scale are due to coordination problems in large organizations. Example, management becomes stretched, can't control costs. We call this one diseconomies of scale. So more common when quantity is high. So we finish this chapter also. This is end of our lecture today. And we are going to continue from chapter 13 next week. And we have one more chapter, chapter 14, and then we are going to finish all the courses up to chapter 14. Thank you for listening today.